Hello, this is Carla Cross. I've been asked to talk about standards and mutual expectations. And this is a subject that I don't think people are addressing today. Why? Because I think we've become too um, too much in a race to see who can get the most agents. And in other businesses, this is laughable because no other business knows or thinks that they can grow with just throwing a bunch of people against a wall. Even though we brokers say we don't do it, when we look at the numbers, we look at the retention rates, and we look at the failure rates, it looks to me as though our behavior is speaking louder than our words. So I want to address with you in these two short webinars two things. The first one, we're going to talk about standards and how to set them. And the second one, we're going to talk about how to speak to the agent about mutual expectations. Now, you promised a commitment of time and resources to your recruit, but what has your recruit promised you? Well, in a lot of cases, because I've sat in a lot of interviews, we never address that. And then we wonder afterwards why the recruit doesn't go to work, why they don't show up to meetings, why they don't take part. Well, that's because we didn't make clear that that was part of the agreement. So let's get started. What should be in your mutual agreement dialogue and agreement? Your production standards or performance standards. And I like to do those in revenue units per year. That's sales and listings sold. Why? Because those are happy people. And then other standards or other contributions. And we're going to address that in the second webinar. So what are your production or performance standards? Do you have them? And do they know? When I started doing this many years ago and I was managing an office, I was a newer manager, I thought everyone knew our standards. And one of my top agents came in today and said, we have those? I have no idea. What are they? So I started putting the standards at the bottom of the sheet where agents recorded what they did in the last year so that I was sure they knew what our standards were. Now, your standards, your minimums need to start low relatively so that you take most people in. But I think that a lot of managers, leaders, owners don't do this because they really don't want to know. But you want to know, and I'm going to tell you why. Here's why. Because otherwise, we don't know who to get on or off the bus. And the agents don't know what the expectations are. And third, I think the biggest reason is we are not then reinforcing our culture and our values. We may say it, but we don't act like it. And the agents get us. They watch what we do, not what we say. Here's one of the greatest quotes I've ever seen. Good to great leaders began the transformation by first getting the right people on the bus and the wrong people off the bus. That's from a business book, Good to Great by Jim Collins. And if you haven't read it, I want you to go grab it now because it talks about how companies went from just good to really great. Let me show you why it's so bad when we keep low performers. Here's a survey from the Ripple Effect of Negativity Leadership IQ. 87% of the over 70,000 professionals said working with a slacker made them want to change jobs. Now, I know that because I'm a musician. And as a musician, I always wanted to play in the best group I can. I'm a pianist and flutist. So if I was playing piano and accompanying somebody, did I want to accompany some poor singer or poor trumpet player? Heck no, because I knew that made me play worse, and I didn't even want to be there. I wanted to get out of that situation. So I learned really early on that I wanted to be with the best people I could find because the worst performers made me play worse. And in your real estate company, you know this, you've lost them. A great agent will leave you if they feel like they're not one of the chosen ones, like they're not important, like they're not getting great services from you, but they're not getting a run from their money. They're not getting challenged. And they leave and they go somewhere else. They might tell you it's money. They might tell you it's a better. What it really is how they're feeling about the exclusivity of your company. Now, I don't mean you're a bunch of snobs at all. I don't mean that at all. I mean you have a company where there are enough high performers that the high performers feel like they're supported, and you don't have the low performers dragging them down over time. Here's the other thing that this survey found. 93% of the top performers said low performers had hampered or decreased their production. And that's what I'm talking about as a musician. Now, let me ask you, when you join an organization, do you join the worst organization you can find and you don't care? Whether it's a Lions Club, whether it's your church, whether it's a charity, do you just join anything? No, you take a look at who's there. Are they like you? Are they striving for something? Are they accomplishing something? Will you feel like your contribution is important? You want the people in your real estate company to feel that way too. And we've seemed to have forgotten that. I'm not sure that we ever had it. So here's what I have for you. On my website, I put some things in. Oh, first I want to tell you though how to implement your standards. First, I want you to write a draft of your standards and then bring your standards draft to your leadership team. And if you don't have a formalized leadership team, I want you to bring to several of your great agents. Tell them why you're doing what you're doing so you're fair to everyone, because they always wonder, why do you fire somebody? Don't you wonder also? I've heard managers say, well, I never fire anybody, they just leave. Oh, that's leadership for you. Yeah, just kind of sit around, watch them come, watch them go. Bring your standards then to each agent one-on-one, ideally, because this is going to impact everybody, and then implement your standards a step at a time. Don't throw it all at them all at once. Remember, start with low minimums. Maybe start with one group, perhaps your new agents, up to 3 months. But don't do it all at once. You decide what group you're going to start with. How are you going to help them move forward? Oh, and you've got to have the training and coaching to move them forward. Otherwise, it's just an unfair advantage you've got over them. It's like a bait and switch. Don't do it. So I've created 4 documents to help you put your standards in place. If you go to my website, you'll see it down there, carlacross.com, and then free webinars, then you'll see it there. One of them is establishing your hiring and retention standards for your agents. It's a checklist. Another is steps to establishing standards. The third one are the goals and standards from my my book, My Startup Plan for New Agents, Up and Running in 30 Days. And the last one is from my online program, Up and Running in 30 in Real Estate. This is for the agent under 2 years in the business, and this is their startup plan and their training, and that's the commitment letter. So all of those you will find on my website. If you just go to my website and then go to free webinars, it'll come up. So that's how you establish standards. You do it one step at a time. You do it so that you're impacting everybody the way they should be impacted. And you're going to help them where they are and take them where you want them to go. So again, if you go to my website too, you'll find lots of resources for leadership, how to train, recruiting and interview strategies, training programs for new and experienced agents, and exclusive one-on-one coaching for leadership. I'd love to know what you think about this, how you're establishing them, and what's happening when you do it. Remember, do it carefully and one at a time. Now, in the next webinar, I'm going to show you your mutual expectations dialogue, because all this has to be done fairly and gracefully. Thank you for caring so much about your company that you're going to do this, because this is the most important leadership leadership strategy you will ever do.